universe, where you learn the secrets of the social media through the social universe, and in many cases the secrets of the universe itself. And we want to thank, and as well as let everybody know, we are joined by Joan Kerber Walker from the Arizona Bioindustry Association, or known as AZ Bio, and we appreciate the insight that she is sharing with us in regards to the social media and the experience that she's been able to have. For those of you who are just tuning in our last segment, we talked about the use of the social media, the targeted use of the social media. Targeting happens in two ways. One is making sure that you are talking to the proper audience in the first place, in other words, amassing the audience that you're wanting to target. And second of all, you need to have worthwhile material talking to that audience. Now, worthwhile material is defined as something that that audience finds valuable. If all you're doing is selling your product to that audience, you might find them not becoming so interested and they wander away. However, if you talk in terms of educating, for example, everybody wants to be beautiful. And with Arizona, one of our advertisers, Arizona Laser and Skin, if all they did was tell everybody, come down and buy our stuff, come down and get a facelift, come down and get liposuction, come down and get CO2 fractional laser therapy, whatever the case might be, then people feel sold to. But if they are able to create and get rid of the misinformation and or educate heavily about all the different options that are out there. People want to know, what are my options when it comes to beauty? Do I really have to end up looking like Joan Rivers? Or can I actually use techniques that are much more natural? Now, poor Joan Rivers, I didn't mean to throw her under the bus. She's done the best she can, but consider her age and consider how much the medical industry has advanced in her lifetime. So she started early on with anti-aging practices, and so she's still wearing a lot of those anti-aging practices that are in some cases 40 years old. And so it shows on her face. But in the future years, I think you're going to find that people that are her current age, using some of the anti-aging techniques, are going to look a lot younger at the same age, even though they went to the med spa probably just about as much and the cosmetic surgeon just about as much as Joan Rivers. So now, using that analogy, the same thing goes in the social media, is that if we are using techniques that are 40 years old, nothing wrong with that. And sometimes things will come right, and this is what we're talking about on the unification theory. Sometimes things that are 40 years old come back on a foundation of something that's new, it's reintroduced, and it works correctly this time. So what we're talking about over break is that if you take all the different types of social media and concentrate on the types of social media, to reiterate what Joan was saying earlier, to concentrate on the types of social media that tend to be amassing the type of audience that you have, whether it's younger people or whether it's older people, professionals, whatever the case might be. And one of the things we didn't mention is to also join groups that are currently existing. So the Arizona Biomedical Association, I'm sure, has a group on Facebook. Am I right?
We have a page on Facebook.
Okay.
Okay, and our page is facebook.com/azbio, AZBIO. On LinkedIn, you can search us under groups, under Arizona Bioindustry Association.
Perfect.
We also have our AZ Bio 1 channel on YouTube. And we have our own custom television station on the web called AZ Bio TV. And so you just go to www.azbio.tv. And you can see some of the amazing things we were talking about today, including that artificial heart.
Absolutely. It becomes, now what you have to do when you have your own TV, in fact, before we segue into that, I wanted to kind of talk about groups, and then let's go into YouTube versus TV, the .tv programs. The groups, a couple of just little pointers. Joining the groups are great, but as in anything, social media, emphasis on social, has to do with relationship. And so many people forget that. You're developing a relationship, whether it's a personal relationship or whether it's an educational relationship where people are following you because they love the material that you are sharing with them. There is that relationship, and a lot of people forget how how close that relationship actually can be. We've used the example before on the show where I was at a very small group of friends, a leads generation group. They invited me to, and it wasn't even me, it was my assistant, my relationship manager, who said happy birthday to this particular woman on Facebook. When I arrived, she said hello, and she's like, "Hey, you're one of my Facebook friends." I said, "Yes," and I have about 35,000. So similar to you, there's a lot of different accounts and things that we utilize, and of course I always say, "Yeah, you're one of my great Facebook friends." So anyway, the meeting started, and as we went around the room, I could tell that the woman to my left was getting more and more agitated. When it finally came to her turn, she was the last one in the group. She said, "Guys, it's my birthday today. And last week when we met, I told you it was going to be my birthday next week. And not only did you not do anything today for my birthday, you didn't even say happy birthday, except for Kurt Wilhelm, who said happy birthday on Facebook to me today." And she proceeded to hand me 150 payroll clients that she had in her business, and she said, "I want you to go visit all of them and tell them that I recommended that you come." And there was an outcry on the group saying, "Hey, you've never even done that for us, and you've known us a long time." And she said, "Yeah, but you didn't say happy birthday either." So the point is that you develop that relationship, and you don't realize how legitimate it feels to the people who are with you in the social media. So don't discount that, but as in anything, if you start developing a great relationship and then you let it drop, it can go stone cold as well. So keep that relationship going, keep that education going, and that applies to the groups as well that you're in. So speaking of relationship, a lot of the moderators of those groups, you can submit your posts to them and then they post, because otherwise it just gets very spammy and nobody wants to be reading the posts in that group. So there's kind of a two-edged sword to that. You want to join a group that you have a relationship with, and if you don't have a relationship with the director of that group or the moderator of that group, create one. If you have to go offline, take them to lunch, talk to them, chat with them, let them know why it's so valuable that your posts would be valuable to their group if they really are. And if they are targeted and they work well, then your posts will be high quality posts that would go to a high quality audience. And that's another way to be able to have a sitting audience, so to speak. I actually sold about $200 million worth of real estate product, not as a real estate agent, but as a marketer offline. This is before Facebook existed. And if you think that makes me 100 years old, I really am 100 years old, but thanks to AZ Laser and Skin, I look only in my 40s. I'm kidding. I'm in my 40s. But the point is that I went to where there were butts and seats already across California and Florida. And this was in only 2003, 2004. So this wasn't a century ago, maybe a decade ago, where the investors were already sitting there in an audience, and then I was just that presenter that would make people run to the back of the room and put down their deposits. So we weren't selling real estate really, we were just having them commit that later on they were going to get the real estate. So we were able to move a ton of product. The same thing goes for those groups. That's the same online equivalent to the butts and seats of the investor groups across the United States. Go to those groups that are already there and then market that. But in the same way, I had to create a relationship with the different investor group leaders. You need to make a relationship directly with the moderators and creators of those groups. So now I want to switch just briefly. We only have about 2 minutes left in this segment. We want to talk about the difference between the .tvs and the YouTubes. You obviously have a great .tv program. So tell us what made you decide to go that route rather than YouTube. Obviously, you still have a YouTube. Mm-hmm. So what are the pros and cons as you've been developing both?
Well, as you were talking, Kurt, you talked about the fact that you have to build your audience. Mm-hmm. Now, at AZ Bio, I have the luxury of an audience.
This is great.
Right? So we have over 240 member companies. Mm-hmm. And then added to that, we have our partnerships with other organizations, not just around the country, but around the world. Mm-hmm. So there are people that already read our stuff. And so they don't want to have to deal with YouTube advertising. They don't want to have to deal with videos popping up that are not targeted to them.
Sure.
And they want to be able to find what they want to find quickly. So a platform like an AZBio TV allows us to put everything that we want to tell in our story in one place with no interruptions. It's kind of like cable without commercials.
Very good point.
Okay.
Wouldn't we all want exactly that?
Now, setting something up like that, if you don't already have an audience, is equivalent to putting a billboard in a cornfield in Nebraska.
Not near the highway.
Not near the highway. And so all of a sudden you've built this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story and nobody sees it. And for a lot of small businesses, that can be really expensive. That might be your whole marketing budget for a whole year.
Right.
If you're developing a following on YouTube and you're putting your videos there, now you're developing a library of videos so that when you get bigger, when you have that following, when people really want to be that target focused on what you're saying, then you can always move those videos over to a TV platform. But until you know that your TV channel is going to actually get watched by somebody, you might want to stay away from that billboard in Nebraska.
Yeah, very much so. Or uproot that billboard out of Nebraska and put it somewhere where there's an audience, or you build it, they'll come. That means you need to build a city in Nebraska, which is easier. Uproot that billboard and get it to the right place at a group, wherever the case might be. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. Also, when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the latest developments in YouTube and how they've realized some of their mistakes along those lines as well. They're trying to improve on that, but I think there's still room for .tv if you do have an audience out there. So don't go away. We're going to come back right after the break. This is your host, Kurt Wilhelm, here on the Social Universe on Voice America World Talk Radio. We'll be right back after the break.